From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anxiety Project podcast. I am Brad Robinson, and on episode 314 today, we're talking about the socially anxious mind, social anxiety. Unbelievably common, especially nowadays when we're inside most of the time playing video games and watching Netflix and hiding behind a computer or desk at work. It can be quite the daunting experience to go and socialize or to even engage in small talk. But, for me, in my experience with anxiety, I had trouble talking to the barista behind the Starbucks counter because I had this incredible fear of embarrassing myself, stuttering, or my voice cracking, or saying something that made me feel weak and embarrassed, and walking out of the Starbucks with my head hanging low, thinking, oh God, you just made a fool out of yourself. You're an idiot, and so on and so forth. And so, a big part of my recovery from anxiety was to confront social situations that made me feel anxious, that made me feel like I should avoid, because I would have that experience. And in my mind, I would tell myself to not go back there because that person is going to be there and you made a fool out of yourself the day before. So why on earth would I go back to that place? And then my recovery mindset, or you could look at it as the growth mindset, was telling me, no, you have to go back there. And that's the Jungian dictum, right? That's the hero archetype, going back into the unknown or confronting what you don't want to confront because you know it'll make you stronger. So I told myself, yeah, Brad, you're going back there. You made a fool out of yourself, but hey, look, you have today, and it's a new day to change things, to change the story, to be someone you want to respect, right? So, of course, you're going to go back there. And so I did, and I kept doing that, and it strengthened my confidence. But a lot of us want to run away from these situations that make us um, feel uncomfortable and judged by other people. Now, let's backtrack to, I suppose, the basic question of this episode. What is social anxiety? And to be socially anxious is to be self conscious. To be self conscious, you're aware of what you're saying and how you look. It's a harsh judge onto oneself. And that's why there's no difference between being self conscious and negative emotion. They're the same thing. It's a harsh judge onto oneself. So if you're talking publicly and you become self conscious, it'll stop the flow of ideas because unpleasant thoughts come into the mind. And those unpleasant thoughts trigger the freeze and flee response, right? And that fact that you become awkward in this situation facilitates more of the justification that the judgmental eyes of others is too much to face. It strengthens your insecurities and inability to connect with others more deeply. So as you've guessed, the number one fear driving this mindset is social judgment, behaving in an awkward manner where you're avoiding eye contact, you're stuttering or saying things that make you feel weak, you're hunched over, and you're even avoiding people in general. And that was me. And so to engage in something like small talk is a skill that needs to be developed. Really does. Some people who are more extroverted, I've seen it comes more naturally to them, which is surprising because I've come across people who are naturally extroverted and they spend all their time, well, most of their time alone, playing video games, doing stuff alone, and they would be in a social situation and they would be very social, and it surprises me. It surprises me. But it's rare, right? It's rare. I mean, if you're struggling from anxiety and you're an introvert, it's an steep uphill battle. And that's my situation. I'm a deep, strong introvert, and yeah, I was very anxious in my 20s, and I had low self-confidence, very, very low. And so, and just FYI, just because it's natural for some people, imagine if that person who's playing the video games and spends all that time alone, stops doing that and builds even more self-confidence, right? They'd be even better skilled socially than they are now. So just because it's natural for some people, I mean, yeah, they can work harder and become even better if they chose to do so, right? And that's the thing about social anxiety is you have to build confidence in other ways, other areas of your life, and we will talk about that near the end of the episode. So engaging in small talk, it's a skill. It's like a cover letter to the resume. Is it worth their time to continue their relationship with you within that brief span of time? But it's more complicated than that. There's a great quote in John Wick chapter 4. Seems like a random movie to bring up, but it's a great quote. How you do something is how you do everything. Amazing quote. So a negative interaction with someone, it can spread to many other areas and other people. And that's an amazing thing because you think that one interaction is negative, but then you'll find out if you start connecting all these other people together, you're going to realize that there is a spider web of negative interactions that have occurred. And so think about every interaction as something that it's not, I guess, it's an opportunity to be the person you want to be. What kind of person is that? Do you want to lift other people up and support other people and connect with other people? That's your decision. And every interaction is an opportunity to embody that spirit. And those negative interactions greatly decrease the quality of your life. Not only do others carry that negative interaction, that experience with them, but you do. And you'll become someone that other people actively avoid, and you'll pick up on that, and you'll start to resent yourself. You'll start to shake your fist probably at other people in the world, and that certainly is the case with many people. They realize that they become isolated, and that's not a good thing because we are social creatures. We unconsciously want and yearn to be in a community, connected with others. And so these short, small talk moments is the persona in action, right? This is the mask you wear in public. And we see this perfectly in Groundhog Day when Phil, who's this bitter, resentful weatherman, he wishes he was somewhere warm. He wishes his job was better. He wishes his life was better. He yearns for this idealistic kind of imagery that he holds true in his mind, and he feels like if he's not there, then he's just going to be unhappy, right? He's yearning for this fake reality he's created in his mind, so to speak. And so he's bitter. He's not grateful for anything in his life, and he is sent to I think it's Punxsutawney, in this small town, and to cover this Groundhog Day festival. And it's cold, and he treats his coworkers like they're beneath him. And he's at this Airbnb. He treats pretty much everyone like that. And he's at this Airbnb. He has this very egoic, fame-like, narcissistic personality. And he comes down the stairs of this Airbnb, and the owner is there. And he's never met her before, but he's kind of bitter, and he's kind of awkward, and he's kind of runs the conversation to a close very quickly because he has no interest in communicating with her, and he runs out the door. And we see this persona in action, right? He's very awkward, he's very self-centered, and he doesn't know how to dance with other people verbally. It's very interesting, and his mannerisms as well. It's just it's a perfect movie to understand the persona. It's fantastic, but also we see his persona at work at the very beginning of the movie when he's reporting the weather on camera, and he's all friendly. He looks he's charming, right? But then when the cameras turn off, you see his real self come out, right? It's just such a great metaphor. It's great imagery, right? The cameras turn off, and then it's like the celebrity, right? On camera, they're a great actor, and you admire them, but when you see them in just normal day life, and they're a complete a-hole, it's like, whoa, there's the true self shining forth. Very interesting. And so a put together persona is this: I can move beyond pleasantries with you into more trusting and sophisticated conversation. That's what the persona is. So if you have a well put together persona, the other person goes, you know what? I can really continue this dance with. I can really open up the other layers of who I am to this person because there is this trusting way in this, and that's how it should be, because to be courageous is to have an innate trust for other people, knowing in the background that, hey, there's a possibility that they could manifest some of their shadow onto me. And that's very interesting. But how you should approach social situations is, I'm going to trust that you have my best interest in mind, knowing that there could be a possibility that you may betray me. But, you know, I'm going to keep that trust in the forefront. Now, every person contains a door to the transcendent that we all have access to. And without that deeper connection, you remain on this egoic, selfish surface layer of consciousness. And you can't scrape the surface of that person's interesting life if you think that, well, nobody's interesting. I mean, Jordan Peterson says this perfectly. He says that you just have to listen and ask people questions to really be amazed on how interesting, like, their life is a novel, and their life is so damn interesting. You just have to pay attention. And if you're not interested in and in in that connection, then you're never going to find any interest. You're just going to avoid other people like the plague, and that's not a good thing, because everyone holds a story that's so damn interesting and so valuable. And there's always something to someone's life that you could learn yourself. And now I think we should get into the steps to being confidently social. What are these steps? How can one move beyond social anxiety? This week on the podcast feed, on Meditation Monday, I have a social anxiety meditation that you can do now to help with your social anxiety. Go check that out after the show. Number one, make it a priority in your life, because we don't tend to fix things when we don't make them top priority, right? So top value. And I think that's what sacrifice really signifies. And when you read about, the ancient people sacrificing an animal to the gods, we think that's so barbaric. But when you think about it for 2 seconds, it's not so barbaric, because when you sacrifice something of value that's worth something to you in such a great way, like your Xbox, when you really sacrifice that, then it's very significant. And it's easy to tell yourself in your mind that I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week come January 1st. And then you don't hold yourself to it because there's not enough blood being spilt, so to speak, for it to have any real significance or for you to stick to it, right? Sometimes life-changing events like a diagnosis actually shift people, because they're like, oh my God, my eyes are more awake. And so it's like with social anxiety, how do you make yourself more awake to the fact that you need to change this? Well, write down the situations that you've been in that have made you feel awkward, that you've been in that were embarrassing, and write them down. Isn't that enough reasoning to want to change, so that you don't have to wind up back into these awkward situations again in the future? And when you develop your social anxiety, you're going to have more confidence in resolving your past awkward behaviors. Because when you write down what happened in the past and what you could have done differently and what you would do differently next time, that'll help release the traumatic moments of your past, and you'll move beyond them. Because if you are ruminating over these experiences and they're generating negative emotion, that means you haven't moved beyond them, and that you're storing the emotion still. That's not so good. And you have to expect this change in a very long, what would you say? You have to expect this change to occur in a very slow manner, I suppose. You have to be patient. That's what it is. And we see this again in Groundhog Day, where Phil, he goes out with Rita, and at first he's very awkward. Rita finds this man he's repulsive, not a very good character to hang around, like a energy vampire. But Phil, now that he's living the same day over and over again, like we all do, he looks at each day as an opportunity to get it right. And the next day he tries, he pays attention to more of what he's saying, and he avoids words that have caused Rita to, look at him in disgust. He's picking up on her facial expressions the more he's interacting with her. That's very interesting to think about when you're going through this journey, is you have to pay attention to what you're saying. Weigh your words before you're saying it. And if you say something that makes you feel weak, look towards them. Maybe you said something, like they responded in a very uneasy way. Maybe I shouldn't say that next time. So pay attention and view each day as an opportunity to get it right, and go back into the same situation again and say, you know what, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say this instead. I'm going to weigh my words. I'm going to pay attention to what they're saying. Then I'm going to ask them questions. It takes practice, and you have to be willing to continuously place yourself in these situations. And they may make you feel embarrassed, right? That's the second point, is you have to place yourself again and again and again, even though there's that potential to be embarrassed. But you'll find quickly that if you keep doing this, the trajectory of getting it right greatly goes up. Like it goes up. If you avoid these situations, that fear grows so rapidly. It's like there's a slight slope, and then there's a 90-degree drop off to the fear. And if you continuously improve on it 1%, the improvement goes up quite rapidly. Number 3 is watch podcast interviews like Peterson or Rogan or Chris Williamson, or there's many other ones, people that you respect or that look confident, that they embody the spirit that you want to embody, and pay attention to them. Watch the interviews and pay attention to them. How do they listen to each other, and how do they talk to one another? What's their eye contact like? What's their posture like? Continuously subject yourself to these people. People with social anxiety get too self-conscious of their body and what to do with it. And also because they're too self-conscious that they can't seem to listen properly. They're focusing internally on what's going on. So they're missing the words, they're missing the story, and they can't respond accordingly. So you look into the other person's eyes and meditate on what they're saying and ask questions. Ask questions. Number 4 is, with small talk, have this goal in mind to uplift them instead of yourself. Now, how do you uplift other people? All you have to do is ask them questions. That's it. Okay? People love when they're given attention. People love when they're asked questions because they can express themselves. It gives them an opportunity. A lot of people yearn for that opportunity to talk about themselves. So ask questions. Number 5, you have to build self-confidence in other ways to help you be more social. So, for example, reading more, educate yourself, um, have some disciplines in your life. If you practice meditation, or if you practice reading, for example, if you have an ADHD mind and you discipline yourself with focused goals of, reading a book, it'll help you focus more on other people because you have other disciplines that are helping you calm the mind, calm your sympathetic nervous system, help you focus and pay attention to what's going on in the moment. And obviously, diet and exercise, it makes you feel better about yourself. It makes you more, well, attuned and awake and alert and less likely to focus in on your upset stomach or racing mind. Number 6, especially if you're introverted, look at the social situation as an opportunity to grow and connect. It's an opportunity. You don't want to go in the situation, that's probably an indicator of, your introversion, which, hey, I'm a big introvert, like I mentioned before. I find social interactions draining. Like I literally have to, crawl into a cupboard for like a few days just to overcome, the event, because I'll continuously think about the event over and over and over again. What I've found though, this has been very useful for me, and I found this out by doing this, is I won't say much until I really have something to say. I'll weigh my words before trying to please other people because I am a people pleaser. I am high in agreeableness. So I'll try and like laugh along, or like, even though I didn't hear the joke, I'm just laughing because everyone else is laughing. That's the kind of guy I am. So in these situations, I'm watching and paying attention to what I'm doing and what I'm saying at the same time as listening to other people. So I'm not saying anything that makes me feel weak, or I'm saying impulsive things. I've said jokes before, or stuff before that didn't go over well. And so I find that when I would be in a social situation and I don't say much because I don't have anything worth saying, and I'll say a few things here and there, and at the end of it, I don't think about that situation too much because there wasn't anything I did to make me feel like, oh, yeah, I should have said this, or I probably shouldn't have done that, or there's not much of that at the end. So I'm not sitting around thinking, oh, how did it go? Too much. And I still do it, but I don't do it too much because I'm watching myself, what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And that's been very, very useful. And I feel confident at the end of it. Like, I'm not trying to be friends. I'm not trying for you to like me so much, even though that is still, I'm still wrestling with that. But at the end of the day, I do feel like, you know what? I didn't betray myself. I didn't sell myself for the sake of other people. I didn't laugh along with that, kind of awkward comment Susie made about her other friends, or, like trying to engage in, what would you say, in what's a gossip. That's the word, gossip. not trying to put other people down, and rather you didn't partake in it, is better for your conscience. That's how I view these situations. So they are skills, and these interactions do bleed out into your life after the interaction. They do affect you. And so that small talk, yeah, it is important. It's the persona, it's the gateway into a more deeper connection with the other person. And so if you are struggling with social anxiety, well, before you go into the social situation, meditate. Do the meditation I have on my channel. Meditate before you walk into it. Meditate on how you want it to go. Imagine yourself sitting confidently, looking the other person in the eye, listening to them, responding to them, being truthful to your conscience, saying to them, you know what, I would rather not respond to that because I don't have an opinion on that. Being truthful instead of trying to please other people, trying to make up something on the spot or trying to agree with someone. Maybe you don't agree and say, yeah, I don't agree with that because of this and this reason. A big part of this, like I said, is being too agreeable. And, well, it's not worth selling yourself. And I think that's a great place to stop on this episode. I hope you found this information useful. This is something I've been battling for a while. And one thing I do want to add before we leave is being assertive, building your assertiveness is really important. I have many videos and podcasts on this channel about incorporating the shadow, being more assertive. That helps with you socially, because if you don't agree with someone, and you've built up your assertiveness, you can respectfully disagree with people, and it shows more respect for you. Other people respect you more, even though you say, oh, I don't agree with you. The other person, even though they might seem upset, they're going to have respect for you, because having boundaries is incredibly, incredibly important. Incredibly important. And it shows strength, confidence, like you're a solid foundation that nobody can manipulate and take advantage of. So I highly recommend that you dive into those areas as well. They do help with your social anxiety. Lastly, rise above anxiety. I'll see you next time.
Brad's Powerful Anxiety Recovery Program is now available at unpluganxiety.com. The Anxiety Project program is downloadable and puts the power of anxiety recovery in your own hands. Visit unpluganxiety.com for more details. Recovery starts now.